Hi friends, I'm Shouvik and today's topic is sprint planning anti-patterns. Okay, so there can be multiple reasons which can derail the teams from having a good planning meeting and as a result, of course, the bad or failed sprint, right? So though many of these anti-patterns look very simple and harmless, but it actually is undermining the team's ability to deliver value to the customer. So yeah, let us explore a few of the anti-patterns related to sprint planning which I am aware of. Okay. No sprint planning. So this is a top most anti-pattern which I can think of. So just imagine a sprint where the team had, team never had a sprint planning. It will be like a total chaos, right? And team is not aware of what things that they are supposed to work at. The product owner is not sure what value that they are going to deliver to the at the end of the sprint. So it will be a total chaos, and it's one of the top most anti-pattern. And how a Scrum Master can fix this is maybe by making sure that the sprint planning is taking place. So that's the only thing. Like Scrum Master should take a stand and make sure that sprint planning should take place before the start of the sprint. Sprint planning is not time box. So Scrum Guide suggests that for a 4 week of a sprint, that sprint planning should be time bound to 8 hours, and for shorter sprints, it will be like proportionately smaller or a shorter duration. So even though Scrum Master say he scheduled the sprint planning according to the duration of the sprint, but still the sprint planning is not getting time bound. The team is overshooting the time allocated for completing the planning. So again, there can be multiple reasons. Team may be getting into the solutioning mode even directly into the planning meeting, right? Or maybe team has started discussing on some things which are not directly related to the sprint backlog or the upcoming sprint goal. So, and there can also be multiple other anti-patterns which also may directly or indirectly extend the time box allocated for the sprint planning. So how Scrum Master can help here is by making sure, or maybe trying out some good facilitation skills to make sure that the team is focused towards what's needed during the sprint planning, and the team achieves what they want within the time allocated for having this sprint planning. Next one is say managers and stakeholders are attending sprint planning without invitation from a Scrum team. So Scrum Guide suggests that managers or stakeholders or business sponsors they can attend the sprint planning, but only upon getting an invitation from the team, and only to clarify the doubts or if the team has any questions. So if this is a norm that the managers or the stakeholders are attending the sprint planning every sprint, then it's an anti-pattern. And how it's affect the team is like it affects or influence the team to change their priorities during the planning, or pick up some new stories, or maybe overestimate, trying to fulfill their needs or their wish list, right? So how a Scrum Master can help here is by making sure that the stakeholders or managers are not present in the sprint planning meeting. Only if it's needed, they can send a separate invitation and get them included, but with the condition that they will just clear the doubts and not propose or influence the team to choose or select anything else during the planning meeting. Okay. Next one is say team members are skipping the planning meeting. So again, say team is new, or few of the team members are not buying in the concept of this agile ways of working, or they are reluctant to adapt to this Scrum thing. So they keep on skipping. They think that it is another event that people have to attend. So they are skipping, and it results in an ineffective sprint planning, because sprint planning is all about having a shared understanding and about what the team is planning to deliver in the upcoming sprint, and share their knowledge and with each other, and deciding who will work on what, right? So all the real essence of having a good scrum will be missing if not all the team members are equally participating, right? So what a Scrum Master can do here is he or she can coach these reluctant team members about the benefits or the intent of having a sprint planning meeting. If needed, he can take a workshop for the team, right? And make sure that all the members are present in the sprint planning meeting and they are actively involved during the discussions and estimation or overall planning. Next one is like Scrum Master is changing the sprint length based on the number of user stories are there in the sprint backlog, or maybe team's available capacity. So that's again an anti-pattern, right? And having a sprint, changing a sprint length every sprint is not recommended, and it will confuse people. Team cannot come up with the right kind of velocity in the long run. So how a Scrum Master can fix it? Again, it's very easy. He should make sure that the sprint length or sprint duration should not change, right? And should not change on the basis of the user stories team is picking or committing in the sprint backlog or the team's available capacity. Next we have say the user stories are not prioritized prior to the sprint planning. So the PO is not getting enough time, or he is too lazy to keep the product backlog in order of priority before getting into the sprint planning meeting. So he is say using this planning meeting to go through the user stories in the product backlog and then choosing and giving priorities, and then the team is discussing and taking it forward. So how it's going to affect is that it consumes a lot of time, and it may PO may lose the choosing the right stories which will have the maximum value, and it again results to the first anti-pattern which I mentioned, where it's hard for a team to keep the sprint planning time box. So how Scrum Master can help here is making sure that team has proper refinement before getting into the planning, and during those refinement at least the PO can have the user stories in order of keep the user stories in order of priority, and have enough information to explain those user stories to the team, so that the team can discuss and get their doubts clarified, have some shared understanding around it before they actually getting into the planning. And performing this activity before getting into the planning will make sure that the planning happens within the time box. Next one is say none of the prioritized stories are meeting the definition of ready. So definition of ready is something which a few pointers which team came up with maybe at the start of the Scrum, when they started getting into Scrum, and they keep reviewing this set of points which are part of definition of ready. And the PO needs to make sure that each of the user story is sufficing, or this definition of ready, so that team can pick them up for the upcoming sprint, or they can commit for it. So this definition of ready can consist of few points, like the acceptance criteria must be there for each of the user story, or all the dependencies are highlighted, and how to mitigate those dependencies are also maybe logged in there, or if in case say the business value, the PO should make sure that the business value is clearly defined in the user story. So there can be few set of points which can be part of definition of ready, but PO is not making sure that the definition of ready are meeting for the user stories, and he is forcing the team to commit for them. So again, that's a big anti-pattern, and as the Scrum Master, maybe what we can do is we can again coach the PO. Maybe you can show him the working agreement that team along with the PO came up with, where they have clearly mentioned that they will team will not commit for the stories which will not meet the definition of ready. So take a stand, first coach the PO, like definition, what is the importance of having a definition of ready, help him finalizing the definition of ready into the initial days, handhold him, coach him, guide him on how he can put in the definition of ready for each of the user stories. And then even if after doing that PO is not coming up with the definition of ready for all the user stories, then take a stand, show him the working agreement during the planning meeting, and ask him to either get it or team will not commit for it. So be a fearless Scrum Master. Next one we have is say prioritize user stories are not refined. So what happening here is the PO is doing his work, like he is keeping the product backlog in the order of priority, but the team is not spending enough time to refine those stories. So they are not spend team is not spending enough time to go through those stories in the previous sprint. They are to refine those stories, maybe understand what are the dependencies there, what is the business value. If they have any questions, they can ask them back to the product owner, and it will also help in generating the shared understanding across the team, right? And they will be aware like what they are going to pick up in the next planning meeting for the next sprint. So how it's going to affect the team is, again, team will consume a lot of time during the planning meeting to do the refinement, and again it will consume a lot of time. And the first anti-pattern which I mentioned, team will not be able to time box the sprint planning within the allocated time. So how Scrum Master can help here is by making sure that the refinement is taking place in the prior sprint for the upcoming sprint. And Scrum Master should make sure that the PO comes up with a prioritized story and with the clear requirement and the details, the dependencies highlighted, the DOR is felt, so that he can explain it well to the team, and team can also ask questions and get everything clarified during the refinement meetings, rather than parking these questions to be taken up during the planning meeting. Next one is again an extension of the previous one. Here the prioritized user stories are refined, but they are not estimated. So what the team is doing here is they are having a refinement meeting. So refinement meeting is in place. They are getting into the meeting, clarifying their doubts, getting a shared understanding among themselves, but they are not spending enough time to estimate those stories. So how it's going to impact the team is, now they have to spend some time during the planning meeting to estimate the stories which were already refined. So maybe whatever technique they are using, either it be planning poker or a fist of 5 or whatever it is, they will spend some time to estimate or the already refined stories, which may consume a bit of time. And say if PO comes up with some new PBIs, which are some new user stories which are of higher value, the team will get less time to discuss on those, because they are consuming time in estimating the already refined stories. So what the Scrum Master can do here is by making sure that some time is allocated during the refinement meeting to perform this estimation activity for all the refined stories. So it will make sure that team is, when they are coming out from the refinement stories, whatever they discuss and they are aligned, those user stories are already refined and estimated and kept in the product backlog, rather than spending time or parking it to do it during the planning meeting. Next one is a team refined and estimated the user stories, but those user stories are of low priority. So again, this is something which is missed from a PO side. So PO just shows up during the refinement meeting, and he just starts from the top of the backlog, picks up the story, and help the team to understand what is in it, and we go through the same refinement and the estimation process. But what PO misses here is he is not estimating or keeping the product backlog in the order of priority. So it may lead to a situation where the team has spent time to estimate and refine the user stories which are not of higher priority, and during the planning they may commit or they may not commit to those user stories, and which lead to delivering something which is not of the highest value to the customer, right? Which is not idle, which is not an idle case. So how Scrum Master can help here is coach the PO, help him with some techniques to make sure that the product backlog is always in the order of priority of the business value, right? Next one is no sprint goal. So now here again something where a product owner needs some coaching. So here the product owner is not having a bigger vision or a vision for that sprint, like what he wants to achieve at the end of the sprint. So he's coming up with those user stories which are not related, or it's maybe diverse, and there is no high level goal that he is trying to achieve at the end of the sprint. So this again leads to a situation where team loses their focus, and they are working on multiple things at the same time. So this is not again an ideal situation, and when the stakeholders, they might not be getting a complete working working software or working piece of product which they can use directly, because things might be getting delivered from different part of different features, right? So what the Scrum Master can do here is help or facilitate in a way so that the PO can come up with a sprint goal, and then the Scrum Master can help the team and the PO to negotiate and finalize the sprint goal, which will showcase that what all things the team is going to commit in that upcoming sprint, and which is aligned to that sprint goal. Yeah. Next one is the shared understanding around the user stories are missing. So when such a case happens is where the team is new, or team is scared of asking too many questions, or maybe team is lazy to ask too many questions, and PO is also not explaining properly. The PO is also not having enough clarity, and he's not giving the proper business justification, or highlighting the real dependencies around the user stories. So what happens at the end is the team, they just commit for a user story for which they're lacking some understanding, okay, and they have some open questions around it, and it again leads to some chaos during the sprint, where things change, uncertainties will pop up, and team may or may not be able to deliver the things that they are committed for, and the sprint goal or the whole sprint for the team is on the verge of a failure. Next is a PO not able to clarify doubts from the developers, and still forcing team to commit for the stories. So again, it's related to the previous one. PO is not having clear idea what the user story is about, and when the team is asking questions around it, he is not able to answer them, but he is forcing the team to commit for the user stories, and he's saying that okay, he will come up with the answers maybe within the sprint. So again, the team is risking, and again, since this is not meeting the criteria of definition of ready, team is showing some anti-pattern to pick up or commit for the stories, and even anti-pattern from the PO side to push the team to take up something which is not meeting the criteria of definition of ready. So Scrum Master should take a stand here, and he should again coach the PO and also coach the team that they should not commit for anything which is not meeting the definition of ready, or where they're at least where they're still have open questions around the user stories, or they are not having the complete clarity around what's need to be built. So Scrum Master should make sure that team is empowered enough to take that decision and say no to the PO. And PO also coach PO to make sure that he should not push the team to commit for something which is not yet ready to be picked up. Next one is a team is not getting enough time to work on the tech debts or maybe for the bugs during the sprint. So here, team is not demanding the adequate capacity to tackle the technical debts or bugs during the sprint. And even if they are asking, the PO is not paying heed for those, and he's saying that his focus is more on the feature development. So again, it will lead to a situation where team may has to do some stretch from their normal work hours to work on these things, like fixing the bugs or working on tech debts. Or if they are not doing that, then it may lead to a product failure in future, right? So as a Scrum Master, we should coach the PO and also coach the team and help them understand that they should keep at least 20% of team's capacity to tackle the bugs or technical debts or some other things, right? Or maybe some slack time if nothing of that sort is there, because you're trying to utilize the complete time of developers is again one of the another anti-pattern. Next one is like team is not looking at the previous velocity before committing for the sprint. So what's happening here is a team is just committing while looking at what all they discussed during the planning meeting, and they're not looking at their past history, like what's their capability to deliver, right? Based on what you call that Scrum is like yesterday's weather. So they are not looking at the yesterday's weather, their past velocity. So it leads up to a situation where team may be undercommitting or maybe overcommitting, right? And in both the cases, we are not optimizing the business or value delivery for the customers. So in case of overestimating, team may be stretching a lot to finish off what they are committed, or maybe things are getting spilled over to the next sprint, and is also we are not we're not achieving the expectation that we are setting with the stakeholders at the start of the sprint, in case we are overcommitting. And in case of undercommitting, team may be having idle time because they have finished everything maybe within the first week of the sprint, and they just don't want to fill up the space which is left. So in both the cases, it's not quite good. A team, as a scrum master, team should help the team to look at the velocity, their average velocity from the past, and help them decide and commit for the user stories for the upcoming sprint based on their previous velocity. Okay, the next one is a product owner or maybe scrum master or a senior developer. So they are assigning the user stories to everyone during the planning meeting. So this is one of the greatest anti-pattern. The scrum team should be self-managed. So let the team decide who is going to work on what. It should be a pull system, not a push system, right? And we, like scrum master, should make sure that the team, even maybe the project manager is there in the team, or the PO or a senior developer, they should get out of this command and control mindset and trust the team to do the job at the best of their capabilities, and help them manage, give them a free hand to choose what they want to work on and how they want to get the work done, right? So the scrum master can do that, maybe coach and take some sessions on the agile mindset for the whole team, and make that happen. Next one is like the task level user stories are created by the team. So here the team is not having clear understanding of how the user story should be created, or maybe the PO is not having that understanding, and they were creating the task level, like they say for delivering a feature A, designing feature A will be one user story, and then maybe developing feature A will be one user story, testing feature A will be the one user story. So it should not be like that, right? It should be the feature story should be one user story, and these activities should be come up as a task, and Scrum Master here should help the team to understand that. Next we have is the Scrum Master. So Scrum Master is not sharing the sprint goal or the committed user stories or the sprint backlog with the stakeholders or the team after the planning meeting. So again, this is not a big anti-pattern, but if Scrum Master does that, then it helps the stakeholder to expect what to see at the end of the upcoming sprint, and they can prepare their mind or prepare their plan accordingly. So again, this is not a very big anti-pattern, but Scrum Master can start doing that, which will help the stakeholder to plan their overall roadmap in a proper way. Okay, and the last one which I can think of is say no finalized sprint backlog. So even after spending a lot of time during the planning meeting, the team is not able to commit to the sprint backlog, right? So they have spent the complete 3 hours and they have committed for a couple of user stories, but that's not enough for committing for the next sprint. So the team decide to keep adding on the stories maybe throughout the sprint. So that's again a big anti-pattern, because team is not focused towards what they are going to achieve. They are not aware what they're going to achieve at the end of the sprint. They have no definite sprint goal. The PO is not having enough work for the team. So now Scrum Master can see what's going wrong here. If the work is really complex, or maybe we are the fag end of the project, and whether Scrum is still suitable for this team or not. So Scrum Master can go through all this and then decide what should be the next step, maybe coaching the PO to make sure that enough product backlog items are available in the backlog to be taken up by the team, or maybe if there are not, then maybe there is no complex work is there, maybe the team can ditch Scrum and get into a Kanban. So again, it's a Scrum Master's call. He need to look at the real issue and take some approach to mitigate that. All this can be resolved by taking some proactive measures and good facilitation from a Scrum Master, or maybe coaching the product owner, or conducting effective refinement, or you can try to build a healthy product backlog over the time, or just take help from the team, right? So these anti-patterns are not too complex and they're easy to fix. So all you need is the right intent and timely action. Thanks for listening. Cheers.